Get your filthy hood rat hands off that wheel before I break them! Deputy Harlan Crow tore open the driver's door, metal screeching as he yanked 41-year-old Commander Jordan Cole onto the gravel shoulder. Deputy Mason Hale shoved her forward, palm grinding into the back of her neck. "Women like you don't belong behind the wheel of cars like this," he sneered, breath sour with beer. Crow's taser crackled inches from her face, the electric snap slicing through traffic noise. "Don't look away," he hissed, fingers clamping her jaw. None of them realized they'd just laid hands on a special operations commander. Before we go any further, drop a comment telling us where in the world you're watching from and hit subscribe, because tomorrow's story is one you absolutely don't want to miss. Commander Jordan Cole guided her dark SUV along a winding Georgia highway, late-day sunlight stretching long through the pines. Drives home from her mother's house usually untangled years of classified missions. Today, Unease rode shotgun. 2 patrol cars lingered in her rearview mirror, hanging back just enough to be seen. Her training hummed alive as she kept steady speed, hands relaxed, but ready at 10 and 2. The cruisers suddenly surged forward, engines roaring as they split apart, one darting ahead, the other pinning her from behind. The lead car swerved sharply, forcing her to brake hard and swerve onto the rough shoulder. "Yeah, keep your hands where we can see them?" Crow's amplified voice boomed from a loudspeaker. He strode from the front car, palm resting possessively on his holster, while Hale approached opposite, his expression twisted with practiced contempt. Jordan lowered her window just 3 inches, enough to speak, still offering some barrier. "Is there a problem, officers?" Crow's face flushed red as he stomped forward, veins standing out along his neck. "When a woman like you drives something this nice, it's stolen," he snapped. "Get out before we drag you out." Her jaw tightened, but her voice stayed level. "This is my vehicle. Registration's in the glove compartment." "Did I say you could talk?" Crow snarled, wrenching the door open so violently it rattled. "Out! Now!" Every combat reflex screamed at Jordan to respond, but she forced herself into slow, deliberate movements as she stepped out. Hands slightly raised, she cataloged everything. Crow's aggressive stance, Hale's position behind her, the third deputy stepping from the backup car. "Face the vehicle, legs apart," Crow barked, slamming her chest first against the SUV. The impact drove the wind from her lungs. "This is unnecessary," she said evenly. "I'm an active duty military officer." Hale's knee slammed into her ribs, cutting off the rest. "Shut up. People like you always got some story." Their search was pure punishment, not procedure. Rough hands dug into her sides, lingering where they had no business being. Jordan's instincts roared with every violation, but she went still, mapping distances and timing, waiting for her opening. "Not so tough now, huh?" Crow twisted her arm up between her shoulder blades until pain burned bright. "Time for you to learn some respect." The third deputy circled around front, knuckles cracking like distant thunder. "These types never respect anything until you beat it into them," he muttered. Cold metal kissed the side of Jordan's neck as Crow pressed the taser there, his breath hot and sour. "Maybe this'll help the lesson stick." "You really don't want to do that," she said quietly, certainty threading every syllable. Crow laughed in her ear. "Oh yeah? Watch me." The taser whined to life, and in that split heartbeat, everything shifted. Before the electrodes touched skin, Jordan drove her elbow backward with surgical precision, crushing Crow's solar plexus. As he folded, she pivoted, guiding his momentum sideways and bouncing his face off the SUV's hood with a sickening clang. Hale lunged, reaching for his baton. Jordan dropped low, sweeping his legs in one vicious arc. He crashed to the asphalt, cursing as gravel tore his palms. The third deputy charged, but she was already moving. She caught his wild punch mid-swing, redirected his weight, and sent him flipping over her hip. He slammed onto the shoulder hard enough to rattle his teeth, air blasting from his lungs as he wheezed. Crow staggered upright, blood streaming from a split at his nose. He clawed for his pistol, but Jordan's strikes were faster, one to the wrist, one to the knee. He collapsed, howling, weapon skittering under the SUV. Hale tried a sloppy chokehold from behind. Jordan dipped and rolled, catching his arm and throwing her weight forward. He sailed over her shoulder and landed across the hood with a crash, leaving a deep, ugly dent. The third deputy managed to stand, but fear hollowed his eyes. Still, pride shoved him forward. Jordan met his rush with controlled violence, a tight combination to the ribs, shoulder, and jaw, dropping him beside his partners. In under 30 seconds, 3 armed deputies sprawled on the shoulder, groaning and stunned. Not one had landed a meaningful hit. Jordan straightened, breathing steady as distant sirens rose on the humid evening air. She didn't bolt. She didn't hide. She stood exactly where she was, boots planted, posture unmistakably military. Crow spat blood onto the gravel. "You're gonna regret this, lady." "No," Jordan replied softly, watching the first backup units crest the hill, lights flashing. "I'm not the one who'll be regretting today." The sun slid lower, staining the horizon a bruised orange-red over the quiet stretch of Georgia highway. That road, meant to be a peaceful route home, had turned into a battlefield, and more officers were on their way. Jordan squared her shoulders, understanding this was just the opening skirmish in a war she never asked for. Lieutenant Randall Mercer's cruiser screeched to a halt, headlights carving through gathering dusk. The door slammed so hard younger officers flinched. Mercer emerged like a thunderhead, face purple as he took in his injured men. "What in God's name happened here?" he roared, voice echoing between the pines. His gaze locked on Jordan, standing calmly beside her SUV. Crow struggled to his knees, wheezing. She jumped us, sir. Routine stop went bad." "That wasn't routine," Jordan cut in, her tone sharp as steel. "You ripped me from my truck without cause, assaulted me, and tried to tase me in the neck." Mercer stormed closer, baton already in his hand. "You shut your mouth," he snapped. "I've got 3 good deputies down because of you." "Good deputies don't jump unarmed drivers," Jordan answered evenly. The baton whipped through the air without warning. But she'd already seen his shoulder tighten. She stepped inside the arc of his swing, forearm deflecting the blow as she pivoted away. Mercer snarled, launching a flurry of ugly, uncontrolled strikes. Jordan flowed around them, never where his baton tried to land. "Stand still!" he bellowed, sweat beading along his hairline. "Like your deputies ordered me to stand still while they kicked and groped me?" Jordan's voice stayed measured as she redirected another wild lash over her shoulder. A small crowd had gathered along the roadside, phones raised, recordings glowing in the deepening twilight. Mercer noticed, and his fury doubled. "Get those phones," he shouted. "Confiscate every device. This is an active crime scene." Backup officers moved uncertainly toward the bystanders, glancing between Jordan and their battered colleagues. None were eager to be the next one thrown across a hood. Mercer swung again, this time aiming low for her knees. Jordan caught the baton mid-swing. For a moment, they were locked, his brute rage against her disciplined strength. Then she twisted, using his own momentum to send him stumbling. The baton clattered helplessly onto the asphalt. She could have ended him with one clean strike to the base of his skull or kidney, but instead she stepped back, hands raised. "That's enough, Lieutenant. We both know this stop was illegal from the jump." "Illegal?" Mercer straightened, trying to hide his ragged breathing. "The only crime here is you assaulting my officers." He shot a pointed look at his men. "Take her down, now!" The backup officers hesitated, eyes flicking over the groaning deputies on the ground and Jordan's controlled stance. Fear warred with drilled-in loyalty. "I won't resist," Jordan said clearly, keeping her hands open, "but everybody here knows what happened." Two finally approached, gripping her arms too hard as they yanked them behind her back. The cuffs ratcheted tighter than necessary. "You're under arrest for assaulting law enforcement, resisting arrest, and attempted murder." Mercer spat, retrieving his baton. He stepped close, lowering his voice to a venomous whisper. "You have no idea what you just started." As they marched her to a patrol car, Jordan watched Mercer barking orders, securing the scene, collecting phones, hunting for dashcam footage. The ride to the county station simmered with tension. Jordan sat in the caged back seat, cataloging every turn and radio call. Up front, the officers kept glancing at her in the mirror, nerves telegraphed in jerky movements. Processing dragged like punishment. Each step felt calculated to humiliate. Tight cuffs, unnecessary waiting, barked orders. Jordan stayed composed, observing everything. She noted who avoided her eyes, who looked guilty, and who mirrored Mercer's swaggering cruelty. From booking, she had a clear line of sight into Mercer's office. Deputies streamed in and out, leaving with specific instructions. One carried dashcam hard drives. Another sat at a computer, typing furiously, clearly crafting a story. "System's glitching," an officer announced loudly. "Might lose some files tonight." Mercer's smile was cold and satisfied. These things happen. Technology's tricky. Jordan sat on a hard metal bench in a separate holding cell. Posture perfect. Concrete walls radiated chill, but she'd endured far worse in hostile territory abroad. Heavy footsteps approached. Mercer appeared at the bars. Baton tapping. Rhythmically. Smugness restored now that walls and uniforms backed him. "No judge in this county's buying your version," he said, clinking metal with his baton. "It'll be your word against 3 decorated deputies. And look at you now, just another violent offender behind bars." Fluorescent lights buzzed as 2 officers led Jordan from holding through the booking area. Her muscles ached from the bench, but she held her head high. "Processing for release hearing," one announced, gaze skittering away from hers. The booking sergeant typed painfully slow, each keystroke dragged out. Mercer burst through the door, thick folder under his arm, smile full of teeth and malice. "Going nowhere yet," he drawled. "Got some paperwork to finish first." He spread the documents across the counter. Assault on 3 officers, resisting arrest, and my personal favorite? He held up the last sheet like a trophy. "Attempted murder." Jordan's voice stayed cool. "That's ridiculous, and you know it." "Is it?" Mercer's tone turned syrupy, eyes glinting. "Because my deputies tell a different tale. You exploded into violence during a routine stop, used military-style attacks that could have killed them. They're at the hospital, thanks to you. I want my phone call, Jordan said, and I'm invoking my right to counsel. Mercer spread his hands theatrically. Of course. We're all about proper procedure here, unlike some folks who think they can swing on cops. The call was short, efficient. Less than an hour later, attorney Naomi Brooks strode into the station, heels cracking against the linoleum. Her sharp gaze swept the room, reading body language, duty rosters, and Mercer's hovering presence. I represent Commander Cole, Naomi announced, voice carrying. I need every charging document and incident report now. Mercer tried to stare her down. We're still finishing the paperwork. These things take time. Interesting, Naomi replied, because the morning news already quoted your office about a dangerous veteran attacking deputies. She turned to Jordan, speaking clearly enough for everyone. This county's buried 8 excessive force complaints in 12 months. But they've never targeted someone like you. The dash cam footage will clear this up, Jordan said. Naomi's mouth tightened. Let me guess. Technical difficulties? System failure? Mercer cut in smoothly. Real shame. Equipment hiccuped. But we've got 3 sworn statements describing her ambush. 3 matching statements, I'm sure, Naomi said. We'll be asking for federal civil rights oversight. The pattern here is impossible to ignore. While she argued over bail, Jordan kept gathering intel. Who handled evidence, who controlled cameras, whose hands shook. Outside, news vans multiplied. Through the lobby windows, Jordan saw a reporter doing a live stand-up, gesturing toward the station. In the break room, a newscaster read from a statement describing her as unstable, dangerous, possibly suffering untreated PTSD. They're working overtime to control the narrative, Naomi muttered, returning with release forms. But they slipped up. The timing of reports, the missing footage, the stacked charges. It all screams coordination. We can use that. Bail dragged another 2 hours. Every signature and form scrutinized like a national secret. Mercer lingered nearby, arms folded, radiating intimidation. Finally, Jordan stepped into the hot Georgia sun. Camera swung toward her, but Naomi blocked the shot. No comments, the attorney said firmly. Direct all questions to my office. The drive home felt surreal. Every patrol car they passed slowed, officers craning their necks to stare, faces unreadable behind windshields. They'll try to isolate you, Naomi said, make you feel watched. She parked outside Jordan's small house. Don't let them. Jordan's mother's neighborhood buzzed with tension. Neighbors clustered in driveways, conversations dying as she stepped out. A news van idled at the corner, reporter perking up at the sight of Jordan. We'll start building the case immediately, Naomi promised. We need to move faster than they can destroy evidence. You sure you won't stay elsewhere? This is my home, Jordan answered simply. I'm not running. Naomi nodded. Call me the second anyone in uniform shows up. Men like Mercer get most dangerous when they're scared. Inside, the house felt almost untouched by chaos. Jordan's phone buzzed nonstop. News alerts, anonymous messages, social media mentions. Local headlines screamed, Combat veteran assaults deputies during traffic stop. Police union demanded maximum charges before an investigation even began. Jordan set her phone face down on the counter. They wanted her overwhelmed, suffocated by noise. But she'd survived worse. Places without cameras, laws, or any hope of recourse. Here, at least, There was a system she could force to work. Her reflection in the dark kitchen window showed the same soldier she'd always been. Scars, discipline, resolve. She wouldn't be bullied out of that. Not by Mercer, not by his rotten department, not by their spin campaigns. They'd picked her thinking she was easy prey. They were about to learn just how catastrophically wrong they were. Morning came heavy and gray as Jordan backed out of her driveway, eyes catching a patrol car parked 2 blocks away. It lurked behind a neighbor's oak tree, barely pretending not to watch. Another cruiser slid in behind her several turns later, following too closely. Naomi's text pinged, "Meet at office ASAP." Federal contact agreed to talk. Their surveillance had gotten sloppy, a sign of desperation. The concrete parking structure near Naomi's downtown office rose like a bunker against the cloudy sky. Jordan chose the 3rd level, away from the busier ground floors. Stepping from her SUV, keys in hand, she noted the echoes of boots on concrete, flickers of movement in car windows, the strategic positioning of vehicles near the ramp. She raised her voice. "I know you're here. Let's skip the theatrics." 4 deputies emerged from behind pillars. She recognized Deputy Logan Price from booking, nervousness tightening his boyish face. The others were older, harder, batons loose in their hands. This wasn't an official visit. "Lieutenant says you might cause problems," the biggest deputy growled, tapping his baton. "Said we should make sure you understand how things work before you meet those feds." Another began circling to her left. "Blocking escape. Accidents happen in garages all the time," a third added, "especially to people who don't know when to keep quiet." Jordan studied distances, angles, their spacing. They'd focused on blocking exits instead of coordinating. Amateur mistakes. "Last chance to walk away," she offered, knowing none would. Price charged first, eager to impress. His swing was wide, telegraphed. Jordan stepped inside, guiding him face first into a parked sedan. Metal dented, his breath exploding out. The others rushed her together, still uncoordinated. Jordan flowed between concrete pillars, letting the structure shield her. A baton smashed into a column where her head had been. She seized the weapon, twisting its wielder into another deputy's path. They collided hard, curses echoing. Price tried to push up again. Jordan dropped him with one precise shot to the knee, followed by a sharp chop to a nerve cluster in his shoulder. His arm went limp. Fight over. "Now it's federal assault," one deputy snarled, drawing a taser. "You're just digging deeper." Jordan grabbed his wrist as the taser sparked, redirecting the electrodes into his partner's chest. He convulsed and collapsed, groaning. Before the shooter recovered, she slammed his arm against a pillar, sending the taser clattering away. The largest deputy bull rushed her, trying to pin her to a car. Jordan pivoted, throwing his weight and sending him skidding. He staggered upright, blood on his lip, and charged again. This time she met him with his partner's dropped baton, striking pressure points in brutal sequence. Une onetsikoar. He hit the concrete, clutching his arm, fingers useless. The last deputy backed away, fumbling for his radio. Jordan closed the distance in 2 strides, trapping his hand before he keyed the mic. A painful wrist lock drove him to his knees. "Stay down, unless you want worse." The garage echoed with ragged breathing. Jordan methodically documented everything. Fallen batons, scuffed concrete, positions of bodies, damaged cars. She snapped photos and video, texting Naomi. Ambush in garage. 4 deputies down, all alive. Evidence incoming. Price gritted his teeth. "You don't get it. If we don't stop you, Mercer will kill us." Jordan checked each man for serious injuries. "Then you should have picked a better side," she said. "Your fear doesn't excuse this." Footsteps and voices drifted from below, civilians drawn by the commotion. Someone called 911, their voice echoing, "There's a fight in the parking structure. Send police!" Sirens faintly wailed in response somewhere downtown. Jordan gathered the scattered weapons, arranging them neatly for photos. More proof of the attempted ambush. The first sirens grew louder as she walked calmly toward the ramp, leaving the groaning deputies exactly where they'd fallen. Their curses followed her into the pale daylight. Soon, this level would swarm with uniforms, paramedics, and investigators. But she'd already accomplished what she needed: documenting the attack, minimizing injuries, and proving how far the department would go. Outside, red and blue reflections danced on nearby glass as incoming units converged. Jordan texted Naomi again, updating her expected arrival. By the time she reached the attorney's office, the morning's violence sat organized in folders and files. Photos from the garage spread across the conference table, each frame a piece of a larger story. "They're escalating faster than I thought," Naomi said, skimming images. "Attempted murder in broad daylight means Mercer's losing control." Jordan queued up video from the bar's parking lot, last night's confrontation still fresh. On screen, deputies rallied around Mercer, his voice low but clear as he bragged about judges and missing footage. Naomi rewound a key section. "Listen," she said. The recording captured a deputy slurring about Judge Everett golfing with Mercer, handling problem cases. Naomi's pen scratched across a legal pad. "That's the bridge we needed. Proof the corruption reaches into the courthouse." A knock interrupted them. "That should be our federal contact," Naomi murmured. Investigator Marcus Reed stepped in, suit sharp despite the heat, jaw set with barely contained anger. He carried a bulging folder and purposeful energy. "Commander Cole," he said, offering his hand, "I've spent the morning reviewing what you've sent. I'm sorry it took an attempted killing to get headquarters fully engaged." "Just Jordan," she replied, searching his eyes. She saw only resolve. "I've opened a formal inquiry into Mercer's department," Reed said, spreading his documents beside theirs. "Your evidence is meticulous. Multiple angles, clear timelines, solid chain of custody. But it's the pattern that's most damning." Naomi pulled more files onto the table. "We've traced similar incidents back 5 years. Same players, same tactics, traffic stops, missing footage, matching reports. Every complaint vanished once it hit Judge Everett's courtroom." Reed nodded grimly. "My team hit the station at dawn. The panic was immediate. Several officers suddenly needed vacation. Others rushed shredders until we stopped them. Mercer bailed the second he saw federal IDs. But not before we imaged their servers," Reed continued, sliding screenshots forward. "Your stop wasn't random. They tracked your vehicle for days, discussing your routine, deciding when to pull you over." Jordan's jaw clenched. "Why me?" she asked. Reed pointed to a highlighted email. "Because you're black, because you drive something nice, and because they clocked your visits to your mother. They assumed family here made you easier to pressure." He flipped another page. "They've used relatives as leverage before. Threats, harassment, trumped-up tickets, a handful of victims filed complaints, all disappeared." Jordan's eyes hardened. "Not this time." Naomi's phone buzzed. She skimmed the message, expression souring. "Mercer's holding a press conference this afternoon. He's calling you a domestic threat, claims your combat training makes you too dangerous to walk free. She rotated the press release so Jordan and Reed could read. He's demanding federal agents focus on you instead of his department. Reed snorted. Classic misdirection, but it falls apart when we show his emails about provoking you. He tapped highlighted lines in another document. Right here, Mercer discusses pushing buttons until you snap. He wanted violence for the cameras. He just didn't expect you'd survive, much less document everything like a field op. For the next hour, they built their timeline. Traffic stop, jail cover-up, garage ambush, bar confrontation, highway attack. Every new piece revealed deeper rot. Falsified tickets, missing camera segments, harassment campaigns against anyone who dared complain. Reed confirmed the federal case would override local proceedings, blunting Judge Everett's influence for now. We'll lock down evidence, freeze computer systems, and start interviewing officers off-site, he said. Mercer's circle will crack first. Naomi glanced at Jordan. They'll lash out again before that happens, she warned. Mercer knows once his people start talking, it's over. Jordan nodded once. Then we stay ahead of them. No surprise moves. Not anymore. That night, Jordan walked into O'Malley's bar, longtime hangout for off-duty cops, right at shift change. Neon beer signs washed the parking lot in sickly color as the last daylight bled into purple sky above. Inside, conversation died mid-word. Every head turned toward her. The air smelled like stale beer and hostility. At least 15 officers lined stools and booths, their eyes narrowing as she crossed the worn wooden floor. She ordered water, using the bar mirror like a rear view. Deputy Hale sat corner table, face flushed, bragging loudly about Mercer and friendly judges. His voice carried whether he meant it to or not. Judge Everett's got us, he crowed. Been covering Mercer since they were rookies. Dashcam footage, gone. Chief spent hours wiping it clean. No video means her word against ours, and we know how that ends. Jordan rose, every step toward his table, echoing. 3 officers drifted from the pool table, positioning themselves between her and the door, drunk and overconfident. That footage showed everything, she said calmly. That's why he erased it. Hale's bravado cracked. You're insane coming in here. Just verifying, Jordan replied, like how Everett gets gifts for tossing cases against your buddies. A heavy hand clamped her shoulder. Time for you to leave, another officer slurred. Take your hand off me, she said quietly. Or what? A second officer breathed whiskey in her face. A third lunged for her arm. Jordan shifted, letting his momentum send him crashing into a nearby table. Glass exploded. The first officer swung wide. She caught his arm, spun him into the second. They tumbled together. Another grabbed a chair like a club. Jordan stepped inside the arc. The chair shattered against the bar as she dropped him. The remaining cop hesitated, watching 3 colleagues groaning on the floor. Others halfway rose from seats, but froze, remembering how quickly she dismantled fully armed deputies on the roadside. Fear kept them in place. The footage showed everything, didn't it? She asked Hale again. His face had gone pale beneath the flush. Mercer wiped it himself, he snapped. Security feeds too. Spent hours making sure nothing survived. You happy? Ecstatic, Jordan said. She scanned the room. Several officers now filmed on their phones, some secretly, some openly. Perfect. Admissions on record. Anyone else want to comment on Everett's special treatment for this department? Silence pressed in. The 3 downed officers groaned softly. The bartender had vanished, no doubt calling 911. Jordan headed for the door, every sense alive, but no one tried stopping her. Their illusion of invincibility had fractured. The night air hit cooler than before. Stars pricked through the darkening sky. Sirens wailed somewhere in the distance, response time finally catching up. Jordan didn't hurry. She had what she'd come for: confessions and fear. She texted Naomi details about Mercer's hands-on evidence destruction and Everett's cozy relationship talk. Each incident exposed another crack in the wall shielding them. The real enemy wasn't drunk bullies. It was the system enabling them. Next morning, driving toward Naomi's office again, Jordan's dash-mounted phone displayed a neatly organized timeline of everything that had happened at O'Malley's. Those recordings would blow their case wide open. Flashes of white and blue filled her rear view. A patrol SUV hugged her bumper aggressively. She checked her speed, exactly at the limit. In the mirror, she recognized Officer Blake Turner, one of Mercer's favorite attack dogs. The SUV swerved into the oncoming lane, roaring up beside her. Turner's partner, Officer Carter Diaz, glared from the passenger seat. Turner jerked his wheel, clipping Jordan's SUV with a hard bump that made her tires squeal. She countered using defensive driving training, keeping control while feigning struggle. "Come on," she muttered. "Show your real plan." As if on cue, Turner slammed into her harder, trying to force her toward a steep roadside ditch. Jordan's phone camera already recorded from the dash mount. Ahead, the road curved right along a guardrail. Turner accelerated, trying to pin her. She tapped her brakes. His SUV surged past, losing position. Amateur hour. She executed a precise pit maneuver, nudging his rear quarter panel. The patrol SUV spun wildly, fishtailing across both lanes before careening off the shoulder and rolling once into the ditch. Steam hissed from the crumpled hood. Jordan stopped, angling her vehicle to block escape. Turner kicked his door open, stumbling out with a bloody forehead and hand on his holster. "You're dead," he rasped. His voice shook more than he realized. "Stay where you are," Jordan called, phone camera angled. "Hands visible." Diaz climbed out, grabbing his radio. "Unit 47, officer down." Jordan closed on Turner with efficient speed, 2 quick blows dropping him before his weapon cleared leather. Diaz backed away, still fumbling with the radio. "Shots fired." Jordan swept his legs, pinning him prone. "No shots fired," she said. "Just like there was no reason for you to try killing me." "Mercer's gonna kill you for this," Turner groaned. "Add that threat to the recording," Jordan replied, checking both men. Bruised, bleeding, but alive. She cuffed them to their own bumper, irony not lost on her. The whole encounter lasted under 2 minutes. She reviewed the footage, sending backups to Naomi and a federal tip line. "Difference between us?" she asked the restrained officers. "I could have ended you. Instead, you'll live to face charges." Sirens wailed closer. Jordan got back in her SUV, merging onto the highway toward Naomi's office. Reed's reply pinged. Federal interview confirmed. Behind her, the smoking patrol truck looked like a signal flare, announcing the system's unraveling. Sunlight streamed into Naomi's conference room as Jordan spread fresh printouts beside older evidence. Reed flipped through everything, jaw set. "Your documentation is textbook," he said. "But what matters most is the pattern. This isn't random brutality, it's institutional." "The ambush on the highway was sloppy," Reed said, replaying the dash video. "They're unraveling. Panic makes men like Mercer more reckless and more lethal." Mercer would rather burn the whole county down than admit he lost control, Jordan replied. Naomi's assistant rushed in, breathless, clutching a stack of fresh reports. Several deputies had walked out mid-shift, refusing Mercer's increasingly deranged orders. Others were quietly calling the federal tip line, volunteering to testify about years of brutality and cover-ups. The so-called blue wall is finally cracking, Reed observed. Once they realize federal charges are real, loyalty to Mercer turns from shield into target on their backs. He won't accept that, Naomi warned. His entire identity is built on being untouchable. Then we flip the script, Jordan said. Every threat becomes evidence. Every hit strengthens us. They spent hours prepping for the preliminary hearing set for the following week. Naomi organized victim statements, Reed layered on federal counts. Jordan detailed each escalating confrontation. One problem, Reed said, closing a file. Mercer still has die-hard loyalists inside. They're tracking your movements, logging your meetings. Classic intimidation playbook, weaponized bureaucracy. Let them shadow me, Jordan answered. Every tale, every plate they run, every file they pull is another civil rights violation I can document in triplicate. They ended with a clear battle plan. Naomi would command the courtroom, Reed would widen the federal probe, and Jordan would keep gathering intel while staying combat ready. Stay sharp, Reed said as they packed up. Mercer takes this personal. His empire's collapsing, and he knows it. Jordan hefted boxes of evidence, feeling their satisfying weight. Each attempt to crush her had become another folder, another recording, another sworn statement. The same tactics that once shielded their corruption were now tearing it open. Naomi walked her to the elevator. I need you back tomorrow for deposition prep. My security team can escort you. I'll manage, Jordan said. They learned brute force fails. The elevator doors slid open, reflecting her determined face in polished metal. Through the glass lobby doors, she spotted an unmarked sedan lingering across the intersection, surveillance barely hidden. Jordan straightened her jacket, checking the phone recording in her pocket. Let them stare, she thought. Every hour they watched her was another hour their system rotted. The department's desperation showed in every sloppy tale, every panicked leak. Power built on decades of unchecked authority was finally confronting consequences, and Jordan intended to push them through. Old wooden benches creaked as Jordan stepped into the packed courtroom. Every seat was taken. People lined the back wall, murmuring, cameras from national outlets already rolling. News of the federal probe had drawn reporters, civil rights organizers, and residents with their own stories. Naomi walked beside her, briefcase heavy. Reed sat at a separate federal table. Across the aisle, Mercer and the county's polished defense attorney wore brittle confidence. Judge Lena Marshall entered. The room rose. Unlike Everett, recently recused, Marshall was known for independence. Her expression gave nothing away as she scanned motions and schedules. We'll begin with the federal evidence, she said, nodding to Reed. He approached with a recorder and thick transcripts. Your Honor, during our review of missing dash footage, we recovered backup audio from body mics, Reed explained. Policy required 90-day retention. These files were deliberately misclassified and buried. Mercer shifted, jaw tightening, as Reed connected the audio to the courtroom speakers. His lawyer leaned in, whispering urgently. First clip is from Deputy Crow, time-stamped at initial stop. The room went silent as Crow's voice crackled through. Look at this one. Daddy's car, I bet. These people always flashing what they didn't earn. Gasps rippled instantly. Hale's voice followed, dripping contempt. Time to remind her of her place. Been too long since we had a good one. Racial slurs bled through, drawing shocked murmurs. The recording captured their footsteps, their pre-planned aggression, even talk of using force before speaking to Jordan. Crow, watch this. Gonna make her squirm. Just don't leave Mark's cameras catch. Naomi rose. Premeditation, Your Honor. They plotted excessive force before contact with my client. The department's attorney objected, claiming potential tampering. Judge Marshall didn't hesitate before overruling him. Federal forensics verified these are authentic, Reed said. We have continuous audio from multiple devices. A second clip played. The drag from her SUV, thuds of impact, they're gloating. Jordan's calm warnings came through clearly, followed by the taser's angry buzz near her neck and Crow's mocking threats. Several jurors recoiled at the words. Even Marshall's mask slipped. The state charges Commander Cole with assault and resisting, Naomi addressed the bench. These recordings show self-defense against a racially motivated ambush orchestrated by sworn officers. Mercer's face turned mottled red. His hands bit into the table edge, knuckles whitening. Reed cued more evidence. Internal emails targeting black drivers, sworn statements from ex-deputies, digital logs showing systematic destruction of incriminating footage. Your Honor, the department lawyer began, these files were obtained through standard federal procedures, Marshall cut him off, and they revealed deeply troubling conduct by officers sworn to protect. Jordan watched Mercer instead of the screen. The facade he'd carefully crafted for decades, pillar of order, righteous commander, was cracking for everyone to see, right there under courtroom lights. After rereading key transcripts, Judge Marshall looked up. Given this evidence, I'm dismissing the assault and resisting charges. Commander Cole's actions were clearly defensive against unlawful, excessive force. A wave of whispers swept the gallery. Mercer surged to his feet. This is outrageous, kiddos! He shouted. She attacked my deputies. We can't let people like Lieutenant Mercer. Marshall's voice cracked like a gavel. Control yourself, or I'll hold you in contempt. Your phrasing is revealing. Naomi rose again, pressing the advantage. In light of clear civil rights violations, we move to dismiss all remaining counts. Granted, Marshall said without pause. Additionally, I'm referring this entire matter to Justice Department Civil Rights for further action. The gallery erupted into layered murmurs. Disbelief, relief, quiet sobs. Years of unchecked abuse were finally meeting consequence. Jordan stayed composed, but inside, a weight shifted off her chest. Mercer shouldered past reporters as he stormed out, his lawyer trailing, already easing distance. Commander Cole, Marshall said, addressing her directly, I regret the ordeal you've endured under this court's watch. This institution failed to shield citizens from abuse of power. Jordan inclined her head. Thank you, Your Honor. When the judge exited, supporters surged around Jordan and Naomi. Reed joined them, his usually stern expression softened. This is just phase 1, he murmured. Our investigation continues. Your case opened the door. Victims are lining up to talk. Good, Jordan said. The problem was never just 3 deputies. It's the whole structure behind them. They moved down crowded hallways, past microphones and shouted questions Naomi deftly fielded. Outside, noon sunlight felt almost cleansing. For the first time since the highway, Jordan sensed real momentum shifting. Not an ending, just the first real crack in the stone. On the courthouse steps, she watched citizens sharing stories into cameras, describing years of stops, searches, and threats. Every voice added another fracture to Mercer's long-protected wall of impunity. "The ruling opens doors for civil suits," Naomi said, rejoining her. "With this precedent, other victims can pursue justice without being crushed immediately." Jordan let the warm breeze wash over her. The system's power had always relied on isolating each victim, convincing them they were alone, helpless. That isolation was disintegrating, replaced by shared anger and organized resolve. Sunset later smeared long shadows across Jordan's driveway as she pulled in. For the first time in weeks, her shoulders eased a fraction. Today's victory felt tangible, solid. She grabbed her jacket and briefcase, allowing herself a small, tired smile. Inside, she poured water and replayed Judge Marshall's words. Validation mattered, but access for others mattered more. Her phone buzzed with her mother's caller ID. She answered with relief, only to hear neighbor Regina Taylor's panicked voice. "Jordan, honey, you need to get here. Right now." "There's 4 patrol cars outside your mama's house." Regina rushed. "They're dragging deputies all through her living room, saying something about obstruction and evidence tampering." Glass slid from Jordan's hand, shattering. "What? Who exactly is there?" "Sheriff's office," Regina stammered. "They came while she was just sitting on the porch. They're rough with her, baby. Real rough." Jordan was already moving. "Call Naomi. Tell her everything. I'm on my way," Jordan said, grabbing keys. Before she reached the door, her phone flooded with alerts. Headlines multiplying like aftershocks. "Special Operations Commander's Violent Past Exposed." Questions raised about Cole's mental stability. Her stomach went cold as she opened the first article, seeing her military file stripped of context. Her official photo sat beside cherry-picked mission details, twisted into a narrative of volatility. Classified counterterrorism work was leaked, reframed to depict her as unpredictable, dangerous, barely controlled. Anonymous sources from Mercer's circle described her as trained killer, emotionally compromised by combat. They even dragged fallen teammates' names into the muddy, implying their deaths had broken her. Harsh ring again, Naomi this time. "They're crucifying you on every channel," she said. "This leak had help from somewhere high. Mercer has friends in dark places." "They've taken my mom," Jordan said tightly. 4 units at her house. Regina says they cuffed her on the porch. "I know. I've dispatched my team already," Naomi answered. "But listen, this is coordinated. They want you panicked, reactive, on camera," pounding thundered at Jordan's front door. Through the window, she saw cameras setting up on her lawn, vans double parked. "They're here too," Jordan said. "Then don't engage," Naomi insisted. "No quotes, no sound bites. They're hunting a meltdown to match the unstable veteran storyline. Do not give it." The knocking escalated to fists hammering wood. Flashes burst through the curtains as reporters crowded her porch, shouting accusations. "Commander Cole, were you discharged for excessive force overseas? Did combat trauma make you attack deputies? Are you under psychiatric supervision right now?" Jordan slipped away from the windows. Instincts mapping sightlines, entry points, potential crossfires inside her own home. The tidy little house suddenly felt like a besieged outpost under floodlights. Her phone buzzed again. Regina, voice trembling. "They've got your mama in cuffs, Jordan. She's crying. They keep yelling about destroyed evidence. She didn't do anything," Regina said. Are they hurting her? Jordan demanded. They yanked her arms real hard. She keeps asking for her heart pills. Stay close as they'll allow, Jordan said. I'm sending Naomi's team. The pounding on her own door continued, questions sharpening. Did you enjoy hurting those officers like enemy combatants? How many deaths are you connected to, Commander? Should someone with your training be allowed to live unsupervised? Headlines on her phone turned more vicious with every refresh. Decorated or dangerous? Community divided over coal. Pattern of aggression follows veteran home. Jordan moved through darkening rooms, switching off lights to limit camera angles, shrinking her silhouette behind walls. Naomi texted, "Your mother is being booked at county. Mercer signed the warrant himself. Working bail now. They want you furious. Don't oblige them." Jordan sank onto the couch in the dim living room, phone buzzing relentlessly. Years of service, every sacrifice, each loss. Mercer was weaponizing all of it against her. Her teammates' memories reduced to clickbait. Her mother in a cell because she dared fight back. Every past victim still living with silent scars. Mercer believed himself untouchable through it all. Outside, the camera flashes strobed, painting the walls with harsh light. Inside, Jordan sat motionless, letting the brutal truth settle. The system wouldn't stop you until she was broken, or something broke it, unless she broke it first. The idea didn't ignite rage. It cooled everything into razor focus. Her mind shifted gears, mapping Mercer's network like any hostile organization. She tried defense, tried procedure. That path put her mother in chains and smeared her service. The room's darkness felt like a familiar tactical cloak as strategies crystallized. Jordan had dismantled entrenched operations overseas. She knew how to identify choke points, supply lines, vulnerable leadership nodes. The battlefield had changed, but the principles of taking down corrupt power hadn't. Morning sliced through bedroom blinds as narrow bands of light. She hadn't slept. She hadn't needed to. The night was spent tracing money trails, phone records, connections on her laptop. Her mother remained in custody, bail denied on fabricated risks. Outside, only 2 news crews lingered now, but media presence no longer mattered. Jordan was finished playing their game. She moved through her morning like gearing up for deployment. Cold shower, quick protein, black coffee. Her mind treated Mercer's empire as a target map, not an unstoppable monolith. Evidence files went into a locked briefcase. Hard drives, ledgers, witness statements, off-the-record financial records she'd coaxed from old contacts. Reporters shouted questions as she stepped outside. She answered none. 20 minutes later, she strode into Naomi's office, where Reed already watched a segment painting her as unstable. "They're leaning hard on the fragile veteran angle," Naomi said, muting it. "Your mother's still held without conditions." "I know exactly where this heads," Jordan cut in, dropping the briefcase. "Mercer escalates until somebody dies, so we end his game first." She laid out documents, contracts showing private prison profits spiking whenever Mercer ran special sweeps, ticket quotas targeting black neighborhoods, consulting fees flowing back to command staff. Reed lifted a spreadsheet, eyebrows rising. "Where'd you get these banking records?" "There are people who owe me," Jordan said. "Everything's verifiable. Names, dates, wire numbers, shell companies." Another folder contained 3 years of lost dashcam feeds she'd recovered from a private server, clip after clip of illegal stops, brutal arrests, and mysteriously missing reports. "This is dynamite," Naomi breathed. "Also radioactive. These corporations have serious friends." They also leave serious trails, Jordan said. Paper doesn't care who you golf with or threaten. Show them how much money they're stealing through bogus arrests. Show every kickback, she told Reed. He nodded slowly. This is institutional, not just one dirty lieutenant. But if we move, they won't just smear you. They'll try to erase you, Reed warned. They're already trying, Jordan replied. Now we finally know why. They're protecting revenue. Naomi spread more pages. Mind already building cases. We'll need witness protection. Some deputies will flip if we can shield them. My task force is ready, Reed said. Timing's everything. If Mercer realizes you have this, he'll torch everything and disappear, Reed continued. Which is why we push him first, Jordan said. Trigger his ego, make him reckless. She slid out one last folder, surveillance photos of Mercer meeting privately with prison executives behind restaurants, at lake houses, in unregistered offices. He's already paranoid. This will shatter him. He'll assume someone inside betrayed him, Jordan said. He'll drag his dirtiest people close and overplay his hand. Naomi frowned. He'll also be at his most violent. Good, Jordan answered. Let him rally every thug who can't afford sunshine. Let him believe brute force still solves problems. We choose the battlefield, not him. She pointed at a map of an abandoned impound yard at town's edge. Isolated, no nearby houses, only one main gate, security lights and stacked containers everywhere. Perfect ambush site, Reed said. Exactly, Jordan replied. We leak that I'll be there tonight alone, before these files go public. Mercer will see one last chance to silence me. He'll bring everyone who's fully compromised, she added. Every deputy who can't survive an investigation. We put them all on one stage and hit record. You're offering yourself as bait, Reed said. I'm offering myself as control, Jordan countered. Your team can't move without undeniable proof of criminal intent. I'll give you that. They spent the afternoon refining contingencies. Naomi prepped trusted reporters for financial revelations. Reed positioned surveillance teams. Jordan walked them through combat scenarios and probable attack patterns. Outside, the sun drifted toward evening while Jordan monitored updates about Sarah, still denied medication, still held on laughable charges. It only sharpened her focus for what came next. By late afternoon, sources reported deputies being summoned off duty, vehicles redirected to the impound yard. Mercer was moving pieces exactly where she'd predicted he would. Night settled as Jordan parked a block away, engine off. Through the windshield, she saw clustered headlights inside the fenced lot and more vehicles rolling in quietly. She checked her phone once more. Text from Reed. Eyes in position. We can wait for you. Jordan didn't reply. She stepped into cool air, heart steady. The chain-link fence rattled softly in the breeze. Inside, shapes moved between stacked cars and containers, metallic clinks revealing weapons being checked. Mercer had truly brought his whole rotten crew. Jordan walked through the gate like she owned the ground. Security lights cast harsh pools of light and thick shadows around nearly a dozen armed deputies surrounding Mercer. You just couldn't stop, Mercer called, voice echoing off steel. Had to keep digging until you made us do this. Jordan mapped terrain automatically. Cover, blind corners, improvised weapons. No one leaves until she's taken care of, Mercer told his men. For good. Deputies shifted, some with guns, others with pipes or chains. Breath smoked in the cold air. Last chance to walk, Jordan said calmly. Anyone who leaves now might dodge prosecution. A young deputy shuffled backward before Mercer snapped, "Move an inch and you're finished." "Take her," Mercer barked. A chain-wielding deputy charged first. Jordan slipped inside his swing, torqued his wrist, and dumped him screaming to the concrete, chain skittering away. That broke the dam. Deputies rushed from different angles, weapons raised. Jordan moved through them smoothly, redirecting force, throwing bodies into each other, turning their numbers into liabilities. She backed toward containers, studying patterns. 3 tried pinning her frontally. Instead, she planted a boot on the metal wall, vaulted up, and hauled herself onto the roof. "Get her down!" Mercer shouted. 2 climbed after her. She stomped one's fingers, sending him tumbling. The other she yanked forward, flipping him onto the container before driving him off. Below, they tried to box her in, tossing tools upward. A wrench pinged near her boot. From above, she saw their positions clearly. Who hesitated? Who hung back? A baton carrier finally reached the top behind her. She heard the boot scrape, turned, trapped his swing, and leveraged his momentum to throw him screaming to the ground. "Use your guns, a Titan!" Mercer howled, losing control. Several holsters snapped open. Jordan sprinted across the container as shots rang out, bullets sparking off steel in angry showers. She grabbed a dangling chain at the corner and swung down behind cover as rounds cracked overhead. Beneath the container, she recovered the earlier chain, wrapping it around her fist. Deputies probed under the metal with batons. Jordan snagged one, yanked its owner forward, and disarmed him. Another's pipe clanged uselessly against steel as she numbed his hands with a strike. Shouts and curses converged. She rolled out, snapping the chain around a deputy's ankles. He pitched forward as she used him as a projectile against 2 others. The brawl roamed through shadowy lanes of cars and containers. Jordan used every inch, slamming attackers into metal, tripping them over debris, forcing them into cramped spaces where they collided. The rookie finally rushed, pipe shaking. She disarmed him gently and shoved him aside. "Stay down," she said. "You can still choose better." Terror and relief mixed in his eyes. Mercer's commands grew frantic. Half his men were down or unwilling to stand. The rest advanced in jittery bursts, no longer hunters, but cornered animals lashing out. Jordan vaulted onto a wreck, then backflipped between 2 attackers whose swings smashed into each other. She swept both off their feet, leaving them coughing on stained concrete. "Form up!" Mercer yelled. "Don't let her isolate you." They gathered in a shaky semicircle. 2 pistols, chains, pipes, 1 length of rebar, faces slick with sweat and fear. A broken side mirror glinted at Jordan's boot. She nudged it up with her toe, catching it by the frame. "Drop your weapons and walk," she warned. 1 gunman fired anyway. Jordan snapped the mirror up. The round sparked off glass. She whipped the shard into his hand, making him yelp and drop the pistol. Chains whistled from both sides. Jordan rolled low, blocking 1 wrap with rebar she'd snatched, pinning the other to asphalt, yanking their wielders, crashing together like puppets. "Behind you!" Mercer screamed. A baton swung, but her rebar met it mid-arc. Wood splintered. She reversed, driving the metal into the deputy's chest, knocking him sprawling. The second pistol carrier tried circling. Jordan bodily hurled a deputy through a windshield, showering glass into his line of sight, then stole his window of shock to disarm him. "She's not human!" someone shouted. "Shut up and fight!" Mercer shrieked. A final coordinated rush collapsed into chaos as Jordan redirected strike after strike, leaving men groaning wherever they fell. Soon, only scattered whimpers and clattering weapons remained. Deputies clutched blown knees, twisted wrists, numbed arms. Jordan stood centered, chest rising evenly, surrounded by the wreckage of Mercer's loyalists. Floodlights buzzed overhead, casting long, warped shadows. Mercer stood alone now, clutching a length of steel pipe. His hand shook, bravado stripped away, terror leaking through the rage. He roared and charged, swinging wildly, the pipe cut, screaming arcs through the air. Jordan shifted inches at a time, letting each reckless blow miss by a hair. "Stand still and fight," Mercer bellowed, pipe crashing against a container, sparks flying. "You wrecked everything. My command, my respect, because you couldn't just take your ticket and drive on." "You never had respect," Jordan replied. "Just fear." He slashed horizontally. This time she stepped in. Her forearm caught the pipe. Her body absorbed the force, locking it. He tried yanking free, but she already shifted, torquing the metal until it snapped with a sharp crack. Flowing smoothly, she transitioned into a brutal elbow lock. There was a sick pop, then a clean break. Mercer screamed, collapsing to his knees, clutching his ruined arm. "You psycho," he rasped. "Choose your words," Jordan advised coolly. "Federal agents are recording." Mercer's head jerked up. At the lot entrance, Reed stood flanked by FBI agents and cameras. Red and blue lights flickered against steel and shattered glass. "This is your one shot," Jordan said, tightening the hold just enough. "Confess everything. Traffic stop, deleted evidence, prison deals, or keep lying with a national audience." I hope you enjoyed this story of one woman dismantling an entire corrupt system. Hit like, subscribe, and check out the 2 hand-picked stories waiting for you next. Power without accountability is always dangerous. For those of you in your late 60s or 70s who have watched America change mile by mile, Jordan Cole's story may feel painfully familiar. You've seen patrol cars in your rearview mirror, lights flashing on dark 2-lane roads, and you've learned that sometimes the scariest thing on a quiet night isn't a stranger, but someone with a badge and no conscience. Jordan was 41, driving home from her mother's house on a Georgia highway, when deputies decided that a black woman in a nice SUV had to be a criminal. They yanked her out, slammed her against cold metal, pressed a taser to her neck, and treated her body like property. Many of you remember when scenes like that never made the news, when there were no cell phones, no dash cameras, no witnesses brave enough to hold up a recording. The first lesson is simple but hard. Power without accountability is always dangerous, whether it wears a uniform, a suit, or a robe. As elders, you know this better than anyone. We cannot afford to be naive about it. Not now, not ever. Corruption is a web, not just one bad cop. If you've lived long enough to see mayors, sheriffs, and judges come and go, you know that trouble rarely starts with just one person. In Jordan's case, the violence on the roadside was only the front door. Behind it stood a whole network. Lieutenant Mercer barking orders, deputies falsifying reports, a friendly judge ready to bury complaints, even private prison companies making money every time someone like Jordan got dragged into a cell. Some of you watched similar patterns during the war on drugs, when whole neighborhoods were treated like hunting grounds instead of communities. You understand how backroom deals, golf course promises, and lost files can twist the law against regular people. The older we get, the easier it is to sigh and say, "That's just how it is." But Jordan's story tells us something different. When her attorney Naomi and the federal investigator followed the money trail, they found contracts, kickbacks, and deleted videos that tied everything together like strands in a spider web. The lesson for older Americans is clear. Don't let anyone sell you the myth of the one bad apple. If a system keeps producing the same rotten result, it's the whole barrel that needs inspection. Strategy, courage, and documentation can crack the wall. By the time you reach 65, you've probably learned that raw anger rarely changes much. What works is steady, stubborn, strategic effort. Jordan didn't just fight back with her fists, she fought back with evidence. She recorded every ambush, every accident in the parking garage, every barroom brag about erased dashcam footage. She partnered with Naomi, who knew the court system, and with Reed, who had federal authority and a team behind him. Together, they brought buried audio into a packed courtroom, forced a new judge to listen, and turned Mercer's threats into exhibits. Were there costs? Absolutely. Her mother was dragged from the porch, her service record smeared on national TV, her name thrown around like she was the danger instead of the victims. Many of you know what it feels like to be lied about, dismissed, or told you're too old to matter. Jordan's story insists otherwise. It says your voice, your memory, and your willingness to stand up still count. The wall did not fall in one day, but it cracked through recordings, witnesses, and citizens who refused to look away. The lesson is this: you may not throw punches like Jordan, but you can document, speak up, vote, and support those who challenge corruption. That is a kind of courage only a lifetime can teach. Friends, especially those of you 65 and older, I'd love to hear your thoughts. When you listen to Jordan Cole's story about being targeted, fighting back with evidence, and exposing a corrupt system, what part hits closest to home for you? Have you ever seen something similar in your town, whether years ago or more recently? And how did you respond? Do you believe that careful documentation, community support, and federal oversight can really change things? Or does it feel like the deck is still stacked? Share your experience in the comments, like this video, and subscribe so we can keep learning together.